Hello, everyone. My name is Brent Hey, and I'm the youth director here at Antrim. And today is Wednesday of Holy Week. And while the midweek events of Holy Week may not be as defined as a beginning and end, Matthew and Mark both record a flashback to an experience they all had with Mary of Bethany the weekend prior. This flashback demonstrated a stark contrast between the heart and response of two of Jesus' followers. And so this account is recorded in Matthew 26, Mark 14, and in John 12. And I'm going to read Mark's account, though we pull details from all three Gospels. So here is Mark 14, starting at verse 1. It was now 2 days before the Passover and the feast of unleavened bread. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to arrest him by stealth and kill him. For they said, "Not during the feast, lest there be an uproar from the people." And while he was at Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, as he was reclining at the table, a woman came to with an alabaster flask of ointment of pure nard, very costly, and she broke the flask and poured it over his head. There were some who said to themselves indignantly, "Why was this ointment wasted like that? For this ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor." And they scolded her. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, and whenever you want, you can do good to them. But you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for burial. And truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her." Then Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went to the chief priests in order to betray him to them. And when they had heard it, they were glad and promised to give him money, and he sought an opportunity to betray him. Do you see the contrast that Mark is drawing here between the woman's extravagant gift offered to her Lord and the scheming of Judas to betray his master? John tells us in his account that Lazarus and his sisters Mary and Martha were with Jesus for the meal. Lazarus is reclined at the table with Jesus and his disciples. Martha is serving the meal, and Mary is the unnamed woman who approaches Jesus and anoints him with the pure nard. This was a precious act of love that Mary gave to Jesus. We are told by those who scolded her that the gift's value was estimated at 300 denarii. A denarius was about a worker's daily wage. 300 denarii would roughly equate a year's worth of earnings, which is an incredible gift. Perfume or oil this costly would be kept in a sealed alabaster jar so that its aroma will be preserved until it was ready to be used. If you looked at all three accounts, we would see that Mary anoints both Jesus' head and his feet with the perfume, after which she humbles herself and uses her hair to wipe the feet of her master. Now in 1 Corinthians 11, verse 15, Paul refers to a woman's hair as her glory. And if you picture it, Mary positions herself as a servant at Jesus' feet. When she undid her hair, which is something Jewish women didn't do in public, she humbles herself and lays her glory down at his feet. What a beautiful expression of worship. John records that the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Have you ever witnessed someone worshiping Jesus like this? An individual who is so focused on Christ that they're unaware of anyone else in the room? They seem oblivious to the cost of the worship that they are offering to him. They acknowledge without any hesitation that everything they have, all they hope to be, and in fact, all that they are belong to Jesus. It's a beautiful thing to watch. But if we're honest with ourselves, witnessing someone else's wholehearted devotion and extravagant offering makes us feel like our offering is a meager in comparison. And if we aren't careful, we start to make judgments on their offering. If I had their offering in my hands, I would have managed it differently, maybe even better, for the benefit of God's kingdom, of course. And that is exactly what we see in this story. As Mary is giving her best to Jesus, she is being misunderstood. The disciples become indignant. John names Judas as the one to object and question Mary's offering. He's also the one who estimates the cost of the perfume to be 300 denarii, not Mary. She's not worried about the cost. And Judas is the one who suggests that it should have been handled differently, that it should have been sold and given money given to the poor. Matthew and Mark record that the disciples agreed with Judas and judged Mary's free will offering as a waste. But Jesus steps in and declares the truth because he knows Mary's heart. He honors her and defends her actions, silencing those who object. Jesus also knew Judas's heart, how he wanted to help himself to the prophets from the sold perfume. Jesus said, "She has done a beautiful thing to me, for she has anointed my body beforehand for burial." You see, Mary of Bethany is mentioned 3 times in the Gospels. First, when she is sitting at Jesus' feet, absorbing his teaching while her sister Martha is frantically trying to prepare the meal. Second, when she falls at his feet in grief after her brother Lazarus was placed in the tomb. And third, here, she prostrates herself at his feet again in uninhibited worship. You see, Mary was misunderstood and criticized at each circumstance, but she got it. She understood something that was apparently the disciples didn't yet understand. Mary anointed Jesus for his burial before his death, in faith that he would not be in the tomb when Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, went to anoint Jesus' body after he was buried, which is found in Mark 16. You see, Mary of Bethany wasn't with them that went to the tomb. After this flashback, Matthew and Mark both record Judas's plan of betrayal as he goes and bargains with the chief priests for a bounty on Jesus' head. He sold his master for the price of a slave. The short, curt description of Judas giving his worst to Jesus in unbelief and hatred magnifies the beauty of Mary giving her best to Jesus out of faith and love. You know, Mary giving her best out of love for Jesus points to someone else who will give his best, indeed his all, out of love for you and for me. And I encourage you, don't object when the gift is offered, but be ready to acknowledge your need for it and accept it. Thanks for joining me today. And may God bless you as we approach